How will Paul George fit in with the MVP, Russell Westbrook?
By the way, congrats to Russell Westbrook for winning MVP. We weren't on the air that night either, or the next.
Go ahead and gloat.
Well, I did call it. Said he averaged a triple-double, but that's okay. Back to
And
business.
win MVP.
Yeah. Back to business.
Okay.
Paul George will be the perfect fit for Russell Westbrook. This was an all-time great deal and steal by a GM whose stock continues to rise in my eyes, Sam Presti, who did, I remind you, draft in order Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and James Harden, which are three pretty great draft picks in a row.
And then he got Ibaka in there somehow.
He got Ibaka in there somehow. He did. No, I should throw that in. That was like a half a star right there, but only a half. But just when it looked like Oklahoma City was headed for one last year with Russell Westbrook and one quick first-round playoff exit, boom, Sam Presti, out of nowhere, pulled off this deal, giving up, as you've talked about, an Oladipo who never quite clicked with Russ. I don't know, it's just never quite right. And a Sabonis who averaged 6 points and 4 rebounds in his rookie year and shot 32% from the three-point line, which was a crusher for Oklahoma City, who had the worst three-point shooting in the league for much of the year. All that for Paul George. Really? That's all you got for Paul George? So you didn't have to give up an all-star, you didn't have to give up a first-round pick, and you got Paul George back, who has made 4 all-star teams. And by the way, Paul George has made first-team all-defense, one first team, and he's made 3 all-defensive teams. So he can really defend, which is why he will make the perfect second fiddle to Russell Westbrook in ways Kevin Durant never would have made peace with. You know my thought about, I've called him George Paul, because he's not that guy. He's not an alpha. He doesn't want to take over a team or games. He'll be the perfect fit for a Russell, who is the ultimate alpha, the ultimate ball dominator, led by far. He set the single-season record for just dominating the basketball. And in the case of Paul George, he doesn't love taking the big late shots. Well, Russell led the league in clutch points last year with the 286 clutch points. That's the last 5 minutes of games within 6 points. And this guy will be the perfect fit because he'll just get his points in the flow. He'll concentrate on playing defense. He'll let Russell take all the big late shots. He won't mind it if Russell dominates the basketball the last 5 minutes of close games.
Well, he sure had a problem with Thaddeus Young taking that last shot.
No, he didn't. He did because he knew he didn't take it.
I'm just saying, all I'm saying is he said he should have got that ball back. Now, that's what he said.
C.J. Miles.
C.J. Miles, excuse me, not Thaddeus Young.
Okay.
C.J. Miles,
Who's a very good player. But in that game, that was game 1.
Yes.
I thought Paul George turned down 2 late shots. He had 2 late chances. So all of a sudden, here comes a guy who's the flip side of Kevin Durant to me. He's not going to stew about it. He's not going to fret about it. He's not going to get increasingly frustrated over a guy whose usage rate was the record-setting for an NBA season last year. So I don't know how you could have picked a better co-star than Paul George. And all of a sudden, they're back in the mix. I'm not saying they're going to win the West, but I think they could win a round of the playoffs depending on who their draw is.
And that's all they've done, Skip. On paper, the Timberwolves are better than o.k.c. Jimmy Butler, Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins,
they got Taj Gibson.
and Taj Gibson. So which lineup would you rather have?
You know, I'm intrigued by this because the guys who have been there, the kids who have been there, for whom I have, especially Karl Anthony Towns, big fan of, I can't believe they went 31-51 last year with that much firepower, and they gave up Zach LaVine, as you point out, but
and
it's
Chris
still,
Dillon,
So now you add a Jimmy Butler who gives them veteran star power and expertise. He knows how to
23, 24 points a game.
So I get that, and I'm good with that, but I'm not sure they're a contender yet. I'm just not sure because those kids are going to have to rise and shine.
But I believe they make the playoffs for the first time in a very long time.
They got a real shot.
Skip. George Jefferson, George Jetson, George Paul, George Washington. As long as Paul George was in the East, he could have had any other George you want to name. He wasn't beating LeBron. Skip, let's be real. Okay, so now instead of the 6th seed, what are they, 5, 4? They went around to the playoffs.
You got to give them a shot.
I give them a shot at winning a round. They didn't gain any traction on the Warriors. They did nothing to the Spurs. The Spurs will be the Spurs. And Houston, I believe Houston are still a better team. I believe Minnesota on paper will have a better record than the o.k.c. Thunder.
I'm not sure about Houston, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Thank you.
Here's the thing. So let me get, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. Got to unbutton my jacket on. I got,
You unbuttoned?
I got to unbutton my jacket because I want to talk to you.
Because it was strangling.
No, Skip.
get some
Yeah, because so I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. Russell Westbrook had a guy on his team that was a 4-time league scoring champ. He was an MVP player. He possessed the 4th highest scoring playoff average of over 28 points a game in NBA history. And Russell would not cede to him. Russell, in turns, when Kevin leaves, gets 42 triple-doubles, broke a record that no one, I heard Magic say it over and over, nobody, not the grinds of night in, night out, will break that 41 triple-doubles in a season. He's now the MVP. And you think he's going to cede what? To who? Paul George is a very good player. Kevin Durant is on Mount Everest. And Paul George is maybe going up.
I thought you were going to put Kevin on Mount Rushmore.
No.
No.
Kevin Durant is on Mount Everest.
Just all by himself.
Right now.
Above the king. He's the
Stop,
new king.
you know.
Well, I think that's just what you said, right?
I said Everest, Mount Rushmore. But Paul George is in Arizona.
Everest higher than Rushmore? I think it's way higher.
It's the highest point but here's the thing. All things being equal, would you say I scaled Mount Everest or my face is on Mount Rushmore for perpetuity? Because guess what, Skip?
I don't know.
There'll be about 200 people this year alone, maybe 250, that will scale up Mount.
Yeah, and somebody will probably die trying, right?
And they hire these Sherpas.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though, Skip. Paul George is on the Camelback in Arizona. He's a totally different player than Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is a 4, 5, 6-time superstar.
I agree.
Paul George is a star player, but he's not the super duper star that Kevin Durant is.
Nope.
Now, it's going to work because Paul George is a great catch and shoot shooter. He will not ruffle feathers like Kevin Durant did. But what did Kevin Durant do with the first chance he got? He left. What is Paul George going to do the first chance he gets? He's leaving. Because, Skip, you can't win with that. Here's a man that wouldn't cede to the MVP, the scoring champ, and a top 5 playoff scoring average guy. He comes back as the MVP, and now you think he's willing to cede some of that power to Paul George?
No, he won't.
I think
but he doesn't need to.
Here's my question, Skip, and I think they're going to, with Paul George and Russell, they're a good team. But are we going to see the Steven Adams that played like he played before he got that $20+ million contract? Or the one we see afterwards? What about their bench? You keep talking about LeBron's bench. What about their bench? Because they lose Taj. They can't, the 3rd best player on the roster, they can't play Enes Kanter in the playoffs because he can't guard anybody.